Let's talk about your paycheck and the possible relationship, if any, between the paycheck you get each week or every other week and the $1.5 trillion tax bill that Donald Trump and the GOP just passed. Now, as I like to point out every time, with any tax bill, there are two things. There are the things that actually happen for sure, and then there's the things they say might or could or potentially should happen. So what we know happened is that $1.5 trillion are being taken from, in some cases you, in some cases government programs, some we disagree with, some we agree with, and then it's being given to corporations in the form of lower corporate tax rates, and largely the vast majority of it to the wealthiest income individuals in America, and they're getting lower tax rates. So that is definitely happening, nobody questions that. But we were told the whole time, as we always are, that we will also get a tax cut, and it'll help us. Our tax bill will be lower, and there will be all sorts of stuff trickling down on us for the next couple of years. Well, we don't have a couple of years of data, but we do have a few months. So let's check in on the stuff they said might happen and see if it is actually in practice happening. So are people actually, when they look at their paychecks, are they seeing the benefits of this tax bill? Well, it turns out some of them are. A third of Americans have noticed more money in their paychecks because of that Trump tax cut. Of those, less than 40% say it's improved their finances a great deal or a fair amount, which is, in my view, a pretty low bar to set. So that's 40% of 33%, which I'm no mathematician, but that's 15% of the country says, hey, I notice it and it's actually beneficial for me. So great success. Honestly, 15%, 2 or 3% of that are the richest Americans in the country. What percent of people who are actually middle or lower income Americans is left to make up this ridiculous, paltry statistic?
Right, what I love about this is that Paul Ryan was excited about how Americans would react to their first paycheck under this new tax plan, and he really thought that it would help improve the GOP's approval numbers, just based on what people would be getting back in the form of tax cuts. But the American people were paying attention as this process was moving along, and the approval ratings made it abundantly clear that no one was buying what they were selling. Most people, including part of Republican voters who supported Trump, knew that this was going to benefit the wealthiest Americans and not the middle class and the working class. And so the approval rating remained low, and then the checks came in, and the approval rating continues to be low because the benefits are not going to those who the Trump administration claimed would benefit the most.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, Anna's so right. This is something that the American people in the main understood was going to benefit the wealthiest individuals and corporations. They saw it for what it was, but the rhetoric was nonstop from the right about how this is going to grow the middle class. But when you look at the actual middle class numbers, the amount of money that's actually being returned paycheck to paycheck is less than $15. I mean, you just don't, it's not an amount that matters. So yes, it's nakedly clear that this was a money grab by the richest people in America.
Exactly, and look, we talk constantly about income inequality and the American oligarchy. These are not like things that just emerge out of the mist at some point. They are created, and they're created through actions like this. Some money that would have been yours, that would have gone to services that regular Americans would have used, is instead being funneled to the extremely wealthy. That was the objective of it, and we already know that that's how people are actually perceiving it. I want to tell another number because you alluded to this. Should they actually notice it? So the first question is, are they noticing it? But should they actually notice it? Well, the Nonpartisan Tax Policy Center estimated that the typical middle-income household would see an after-tax gain of $930 in 2018 as a result of the new law. Assuming a one-paycheck household, that adds up to a little less than $18 a week. Again, on average, for a middle income household. And there could be a broad range of what middle income actually represents. A lot of people making even less than that, which means that if you go out to a fancy bar, you can't even get one additional drink every other week off of this tax bill.
And you'll need one additional drink.
You could use it, you could use it. And that $18 a week, you better not spend it on a drink. You better save it, because all the various ways that you're going to be paying more as a result of the states and local areas being starved of resources and then them passing that on to you in higher fees and all sorts of things like that. The fact that your health insurance premiums and copays are going to go up because they're doing everything they can to destroy the Affordable Care Act and all of that. I hope $18 a week covers all of that stuff, or else you're not even going to be able to afford a Chipotle every other week.
Right, this just perpetuates regressive taxation, which is what we see not just in Republican administrations, to be fair, you see it in Democratic administrations as well. We already have a system where we privatize gains, socialize losses, but on top of that, that tiny amount of money that you see in addition to your previous paychecks, there is a cost to that, and that cost will be huge cuts in government programs that you think you might not be taking advantage of or needing, but you actually do need and have taken advantage of, and a lot of other people in underprivileged situations desperately need. So there's a huge cost to that $18 per paycheck that you're receiving now.
Yeah, and so as I was thinking back to the fact that it's, by my math, something like 14 to 16% of the country thinks that they made a little bit more money and it actually makes a difference. That sounds like a big problem for the GOP come the midterms, let alone the fact that the vast majority of working class and middle class Americans aren't going to see absolutely anything. But who is most likely to have actually noticed that? Well, obviously the wealthiest percentage. The 100th percentile individual is going to make the most from this, so they're definitely going to notice it. 99 a little bit less, 98 a little bit less. So if we are to actually work that out, according to this, if you're in the 80th percentile, you might well not have noticed anything. If your tax bill can't even benefit some of literally still the wealthiest people in this country, do you really think that that's gonna be enough for you to squeak out something that allows you to maintain your congressional majority? I honestly don't think so. This is their entire saving grace, and nobody seems to be buying it at this point.
Right, but I also want to make sure that Democrats don't bet on anything. Like they need to not be complacent. They need to give people a reason to vote for them in congressional races, in local races, and eventually in 2020. Their argument can't be, we're better than the other party. It's not gonna work for a lot of people. You need to inspire people, you need to have solutions that work, so don't get complacent.
Yeah, that was the argument the last time in the general election, and it really didn't work. I mean, the Democrats were swept out in record numbers. It is absolutely the case that they need issues beyond, look at those bad ideas, we're not gonna do that. It just, but to your point, we talked about this on TYT, the fact that we were a little worried that perhaps with a little more money in their pockets early on, even though, as you know, there's sunsets on even these tax cuts for the middle class, as paltry as they are. We were a little worried that with a little more money in their pockets, that voters might begin to go right. And that's simply because they were feeling richer. But then when you actually see the numbers that John's talking about, that may not have been a legitimate fear.
Yeah, and so if you look back historically, how out of the norm is this sort of effect that they pass this big tax bill and then people don't really notice the benefit? Well, I looked back, and back in I think 2009, Obama, I'm not talking about the stimulus here, I'm talking about the Make Work Benefit Again, something like that. It was a tax credit that was given to give a little bit more money to working Americans. This was passed in 2009 under Barack Obama, and it was estimated that for 2009 and 2010, the average family would see about $1,200 additional income, which is a good chunk more than this. And the New York Times followed up, and less than 10% of households noticed the difference.
Right.
I mean, they got $1,200, but even in that case, most people didn't even know that it existed. Because of course, we need more money than just $1,200. But so perhaps these numbers shouldn't be that surprising.
But also the way that they parcel it out, I think makes it even less noticeable. If they gave you that $1,200 at the beginning of the year, you would say, wow, we just got $1,200 from the government. But because
like the stimulus.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right, but if I remember correctly, there was a stimulus under the Bush administration. I think it was a $600 check. And it did nothing to stimulate the economy. People either saved it or tried to pay down their credit card debt. So I mean,
it's responsible of them.
Which was, yeah, exactly. But I mean, people were not in good financial situations at that time. And also currently still aren't. But yeah, I mean, I guess they felt it more, so maybe, but I mean, it didn't really help Bush's approval ratings much.
Great example, because that was a surplus that Bush delivered, and then he essentially dropped it on everybody, as Anna says, at one time, but it was $600. I mean, what's really gonna happen? And we all said that at the time, what's really gonna happen with $600? But they were arguing, no, don't underestimate $600. Americans are living close to the line, and this is really going to make a difference. And it didn't make a difference in the economy at all. And it helped erase a surplus.
You just watched the video by the Young Turks, home of the revolution. If you'd like to get a lot more than that, get the full show by becoming a member. tytnetwork.com/join.